With Tyrese Halliburton going 0 for 6 from the floor in the latest game in the NBA Finals, we thought about having a look back at some of the worst playoff performances of all time. We took into consideration only players that were the best or one of the best on their team and had games that were considerably below their standards, even in the very playoffs where these low-light performances happened.
Fans have been wild for the past half hour.
Now, back in 2007, the Cleveland Cavaliers had no business of making it to the NBA Finals, with fellas like Sasha Pavlovich, Drew Gooden, or Larry Hughes in the starting lineup. That being said, LeBron James had a rough welcome on the brightest stage. In Game 1 in San Antonio, he managed to get only 14 points and 4 assists, while turning the ball over 6 times and shooting 4 of 16 from the floor. Now, you could argue that these were expected growing pains, with him being 23 at the time, and with all the experience the Spurs had with Tim Duncan, Ginobili, Tony Parker, and those guys, but still, making just 4 shots for one of the best players in the league at that time, in his 4th season in the NBA, is quite underwhelming to say the least. The Spurs went on to sweep the Cavs in that series and win their 4th ever championship.
Got to get some post-up opportunities for Gooden and Ilgauskas.
Parker to the basket. Tony Parker.
He may be one of the greatest shooters of all time, but Klay Thompson's last game for the Golden State Warriors was one of the roughest performances we have ever witnessed from a star player. In the decisive play-in game versus the Kings, Klay managed to lay a big, fat goose egg, going 0 of 10 from the field and 0 of 6 from deep, with just 1 assist. Now, a rough shooting night can happen to the best of us, but missing 10 shots in 31 minutes played in what could be the last game of your season and for the franchise that drafted you is still bonkers to me. Not sure he knew it then, but this was his last game in Golden State, as he went on to sign with the Mavericks that summer.
Thompson drives. Thompson. No whistle there.
Next up on the list is the other Splash brother, the best shooter to ever walk the surface of the earth, Mr. Stephen Wardell Curry. Now, I feel like he does get some unfair criticism at times, like the 2015 Finals, when Iguodala won the MVP, when he averaged 26 points, 6.3 assists, and almost 2 steals a game while shooting 44% from the floor. That being said, Game 7 of the Finals in 16 was a rough one. Not only did Kyrie hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history right in his grill, but in the biggest game in the season, the Cavs held him to 17 points and 2 assists, turning the ball over 4 times and shooting 4 of 14 from 3. As I've said, rough shooting nights do happen, but this one was as rough as they come for a guy like him. And on top of that, his team, being the first ever to squander a 3-1 lead in the finals, after the historic 73-9 season they had, was just a sour cherry on top of that rotten cake.
2.9 seconds. Harper's on Miller. McKee gets it in the middle for the win.
And we are staying in sharpshooter territory with the next performance as we take a look at Reggie Miller's Game 1 in the 2000 NBA Finals against the Lakers. Now, bear in mind that Reggie was 34 at the time, and with prime Shaq and a dynamic Kobe in front of them, the Pacers would have probably never won that series no matter what, but still, in the Finals opener, Reggie dropped a stinker. He went 1 of 16 from the floor and 1 of 3 from deep, scoring only 7 points in 40 minutes of action, in what could have been a tone setter for the series. Reggie did go on to average 24 points in those finals as the Pacers gave the Lakers a run for their money, being the toughest opponent from the East during their three-peat in the early 2000s, taking the Lakers to 6 games that year. But I'm pretty sure he would give everything to have this one back.
Shaq steps over, and Dale Davis allows him to get right in front of him. And we talked about when he gets it that deep, you can't get into the double team.
That's right. You can be a 6-time NBA champion and still find yourself on this list. Such is the case for Bulls legend, Scottie Pippen. Back in 1998, everything was set for Chicago to win their 6th championship at home, beating the Utah Jazz in 5 games. Michael Jordan was also slightly off, but he did drop 28 points, but his partner in crime was nowhere to be found. Scottie shot 2 of 16 from the floor and an astonishing 0 of 7 from 3, at least for those times. He also had 4 turnovers in 45 minutes played. The game was pretty close to the end, with the Jazz winning by just 2 points. So you think if Scottie would have been close to his regular self, the Bulls would have won that game. Now, to be fair, he was dealing with a back injury at the time. And also, Chicago went on to win the championship the next game in Utah, with Jordan hitting his famous pose against Byron Russell. But still, Pippen's undermining performance could have come back to bite them and disrupt one of the greatest documentaries ever to see the light of day.
Chicago with the lead! Timeout, Utah!
Now, you can't talk about playoff failures without mentioning the all-time leader in this category, Mr. James Rodrigo Harden. We could have added several pieces of art to this list, but probably the most glaring of them all has to be his performance in Game 6 of the Western Conference Semis versus the Spurs. This was a win or go home for the Rockets, and the Spurs were without Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard, but still blew them out in Houston. Harden shot 2 of 11 from the floor and 2 of 9 from 3, had 6 turnovers, and his team was minus 28 with him on the floor. Also, this wasn't rookie Harden or injury-ridden Harden. This was the 2017 version. MVP runner-up, fresh off averaging 29 points and 11 assists that season. Sheesh.
A strong game in Game 5 in his first. Knicks trying to wait till the end. Brunson puts up a 3. Bang!
You know the famous narrative that the Knicks haven't won a title in over 50 years? That could have all been water under the bridge if Mr. John Starks hadn't pulled off one of the worst howlers in finals history in Game 7 versus the Rockets. Now the Knicks were Patrick Ewing's team, but Starks was a key piece, and he had just dropped 27-8 in Game 6. So him showing up in the final game of the season was imperative. The brother went instead for a 2 for 18 performance, scoring 8 points, and a crazy 0 for 11 from 3 for that era. Considering the rest of the team was 4 for 9 from deep in that game, you can only imagine what a better performance would have done for him in New York, especially considering Game 7 was a close one, with the Rockets winning 90-84. He held the record for most missed threes in NBA Finals history for 21 years, and is still to this day behind only Steph Curry in this category.
The Houston Rockets are the 1993-94 NBA champions.
Hey, when you're the king, you get double of everything, including 2 appearances on the biggest stinkers in NBA playoffs history. Now, Bron may have gotten himself into the GOAT conversation anyway, but his meltdown in the 2011 Finals is one for the ages. The Miami Heat were up 2-1 on the Mavs and were in position to get a commanding 3-1 lead and help secure LeBron's first ever championship. But instead, King James dropped his second lowest scoring game ever in the playoffs, managing to get only 8 points on 3 for 11 shooting, while also turning the ball over 4 times. Now, this game was a close one, with Dallas winning by merely 3 points, so it is safe to assume that any sort of performance from LeBron would have gotten the Heat over the hump, considering Wade and Bosh combined for 56 points in this one. But instead, Nowitzki and the Mavs pulled off one of the greatest upsets in finals history, beating the Heat in 6 games and bringing the first ever NBA championship to Dallas. And there we have it, the worst performances by a star in NBA playoffs history. What do you think of this list? Is there any other low light we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. And, as always, keep swishing!